mach chasanam paran mukim bhagam barhishi ya vrinkte nam tanati cham no vasum priturvacha vasudetvam vadishyami vasudetvam vadishyami Matchasana paranmukim Matchasana paranmukim Bhagam barhishya vrinkte Bhagam barhishayang vrinkte Natanoti chano vasu Natanoti chano vasu Priturvacha Vasudetvam vadishyami Matchasana parammukim Bhagam barhishya vrinkte Natanoti chano vasu Priturvacha Ladies? Word by word. Pritu Vacha. King Pritus replied, Vasudhe, my dear earthly planet, Tvam, you, Vadishyami, I shall kill, Mat, my, Shasana, rulings, Parakmukim, disobedient to, Bhagam, your share, Barhishi, in the yajna, Ya, who, Bringte, accepts, Na, not, Tanati, does deliver, Cha, and, Naha, to us, Vasu, produce. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Śrīla Prabhupada Ki Jai. King Prithu replied to the earthly planet, My dear earth, you have disobeyed my orders and rulings. In the form of a demigod, you accepted your share of the yajnas we performed, but in return you have not produced sufficient food grains. For this reason, I must kill you. So purport. The cow-shaped earthly planet submitted that she not only was a woman, but was innocent and sinless as well. Thus she argued that she should not be killed. Besides, she pointed out that being perfectly religious-minded, the king could not violate the religious principles that forbade killing a woman. In reply, Maharaj Prithu informed her that first of all she had disobeyed his orders. This was her first sinful activity. Secondly, he accused her of taking her share of the yajnas, sacrifices, but not producing sufficient food grains in return. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Gyanangyana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shayuta Parakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Ragunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sabadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopipakanta Radhakanta Namostute Jayatam Surato Pangor Mamamanda Matirgati Matsarvasva Padambojo Radhamadana Mohanau Divyad Vrindaranya Kalpadru Mada Srimadratangara Simhasanasto Srimadrada Srila Govinda Deva Uprishthalivi Savimano Smarami Srimandra Sarasaramvi Vamsiva Tadatastitaha Karsham Veno Svanai Gopir Gopinata Shriyestunaha Taptakanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishavano Sutadevi Pranamami Hari Priye Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Vielen Dank. Once again the verse. Prituruvacha vasudetvam vadishyami machasana parammukhim bhagam barhi shiya vrinte natanoti chano vasu. King Prithu replied to the earthly planet, My dear earth, you have disobeyed my orders and rulings. In the form of a demigod, you accepted your share in the yajnas we performed, but in return you have not produced sufficient food grains. For this reason, I must kill you. So this is maybe a shocking to hear. Certainly shocking to hear that Prithu Maharaj is ready to kill planet Earth and a cow. But we need to understand the context, and of course also we will see how the story unfolds. I can already say Prithu Maharaj does not kill Mother Earth. So basically, but there's a few interesting points. So maybe we should recap shortly what Bhumi Devi said before. There's a few verses before where she is seeing that Prithu Maharaj is threatening her, and she's talking to him and telling him that she's a woman, she's sinless. And the last verse before this reply, she says to Prithu Maharaj that she's the container, like a boat. She contains all what is necessary for survival, in this earth. And if she is destroyed, then it's like destroying your own boat. If you're in a boat and you destroy your boat, then you go under. So that was her last argument. If you destroy me, kill me, then all of you, with your planet, all your subjects, everybody will go down as well. So then it's interesting why King Prithu is still in this verse. He says, I must kill you. So it's a very clear, strong threat. And when we study the Vedic scriptures, we will find that sometimes, or in general, when you read Ramayana also, Dharma is not always sentimental, not at all sentimental actually. So Dharma, when you have to fulfill your duty, sometimes you end up in situations which are very, very painful. So Ram is a very famous example. So anybody who knows the story of Ramayana, it's actually an extremely tragic story, very painful. It's just one tragedy after another, and it becomes more and more painful as you continue. Of course, it's transcendental pain when you feel emotions for the character of Sri Ram, his detachment, his selfless commitment to his duty. But it's painful to see all the way. And in a similar situation here, the duty of the king is to provide for his subjects. That's the duty of a king. And he has to make sure everybody has sufficient foods. That's one of the main items. So Prithu Maharaj is just showing his dharma as a king to provide for his people. He's ready to kill. So that's very poignant, that he's actually ready to kill to make sure there's enough foodstuff for his people. And you could also say, for a threat to be taken seriously, you have to be serious in your attempt. So probably he would not really kill Mother Earth, like Mother Earth herself said, you are a pious king, you have knowledge, you wouldn't do that, But Prithu Maharaj is not saying, yeah, you're actually right, He's like, no, until you fulfill your duty, I'm here ready, to threaten you with death. And the normal circumstances, of course, we understand that actually Mother Earth would reciprocate, because the point that is made here in this verse is that he says that he himself and his subjects, they have performed yajnas. They have performed yajnas to please all the demigods, all the devatas, like we hear in the Bhagavad Gita. For a happy life, we need to please the devatas. That is described. Yajna is there to please the devatas. If the devatas are pleased, there will be sufficient rain, there will not be droughts, there will be sufficient food grains produced by Mother Earth. So he's accusing her that she has taken her share in these offerings, but she has not done her part. She has not produced sufficient grains. She has not reciprocated with her part of the deal, so to say. So we need to understand that the demigods, there's a few sections in the Bhagavatam where we get a little bit of a deeper insight how the demigods survive actually. So they survive actually on the offerings of the people. It's similar like the Pitris. The Pitris, the forefathers, they depend on the offerings of the offspring they leave behind on planet Earth. And if they neglect this duty to offer pinda, then the Pitris have no credit anymore. It's like you could say the Pitris are like in a 5-star hotel, and they're getting this check always, sent by the children, once a year, a check. So then they stop sending the check, then you get in trouble with the receptionist, It's like, you can't pay, credit card is not working anymore. Very embarrassing, So they become very frustrated, the Pitris. They become very frustrated when their descendants are not offering pinda to them. And then who knows what happens?
They become really angry and then they become Yamatutas.
Yes. Yamaraj goes and hires them, He says, you're very frustrated, you have no money, you cannot stay anymore in a 5-star hotel. I have a job for you, Best job. You can take revenge. You want a revenge, They didn't send any remedy, So you can now take revenge on those sinful descendants you have who neglected religious principles, and became just, absorbed in themselves, using all their wealth selfishly. So the Yamadutas then take revenge when they come to the Patala Lokas, the lower planetary systems. So the Yamadutas are hired Pitris, basically. That's described in the Bhagavatam. But the point is that the demigods, like the Pitris, they depend on these offerings. There's a certain share in offerings. So, of course, I'm not expert at Vedic rituals, but in traditional Vedic rituals, there's a whole system. All the demigods are supposed to get their share when you do a proper offering. And Srila Prabhupada says in a traditional Vedic yajna, always also there will be a shalagram shila, even if the ceremony is for some demigod, because the ultimate enjoyer, of course, is Krishna. Ultimately, the enjoyer is Krishna, Narayan, Vishnu, and it's visible because the shalagram shila is placed traditionally in a proper, fire ceremony. But you could say within the karmic dependence of the material world, actually it is important to please the demigods. And they have their very powerful positions, and they are to be pleased. So of course we know we have a very amazing story where a demigod, became very angry that his share of the offering was not being offered. So Indra. So Indra was very and you have to understand that actually in the Vedas, in the Rig Veda especially, but in the Vedas in general, Indra is more or less the main deity that is being worshipped. So many hymns for Indra, so many different rituals for Indra, because of course he's the head of the demigods. He's the king of the demigods. So naturally, there are so many rituals and hymns glorifying Indra. So he's very aggrandized, about himself. He's very proud, and when little Krishna diverts, the offering towards Govardhan, he's very angry. He does not like it at all. It's like, so he takes action, and he takes, he goes all in. He calls Samvartaka. Samvartaka cloud usually only is summoned at the end of creation. It says that the drops from the Samvartaka cloud are as thick as elephant feet, like this, drops like. So he sends the Samvartaka cloud and inundates all of Vrindavan. And then of course Krishna humbles him, humiliates him. And it's a Leela also, because during that 1 week where Krishna is under the Govardhan hill, all the residents of Vrindavan have the opportunity to be 24 hours with Krishna. So it's a very unique Leela. There's many books written what happened exactly every single day, every single hour, every single minute. Shivara Maharaj, has published a very nice book, describing what happened during those 7 days. Because usually the residents of Vrindavan, they are always at one point or another, they are in separation of Krishna. So during the day, the gopis are in separation because Krishna is with a cowherd voice, and the residents, the parents, they're missing him. So when Krishna goes back home, then everybody else is missing. So always somebody is missing Krishna. But during the Govardhan Leela, everybody had the chance to spend, 24 hours for 7 days, intimately with Krishna. But yes, so the demigods have you could say a right, to a certain share of the offerings. But at the same time, of course, they have a duty, because we understand that we can talk a little bit about the word demigod, because sometimes, especially nowadays in modern India, I've seen quite a few scholars, Sanskrit scholars, they criticize Srila Prabhupada for using the word demigod. You might have heard or seen maybe. And they say that it's not a proper translation because the word devata does not mean demigod. There's something like upadevatas, like smaller demigods. But the word demigod can be deceiving, they say, because it means like a half god. That's the literal meaning. Demi means half god, half god. And they say there is no half god. They're all the same. And the word demigod, usually in ancient, in like previous literature, was usually used to denote somebody who is half god, half human. Like Hercules is a famous demigod. So his father was Zeus, and his mother, I forgot, some normal human. So he was a demigod, a half god, so to say. So we need to understand why Srila Prabhupada is using the word demigod. And even it's not a literal translation, the reason is very clear, and he explains it, and it's of course also in line with Siddhanta. The reason Srila Prabhupada uses the word demigod is to not have any confusion about who is supreme. So Bhagavan, Sri Krishna, Swayam Bhagavan, Narayan, Vishnu Tattvas, all Vishnu Tattvas are supreme. And this is not uncommon. The Vaishnava traditions always exalted Krishna as supreme. And there might be some Shaiva traditions or Shakta traditions that exalted Shiva or Devi as supreme, but it's not uncommon that one deity is exalted above the others, generally speaking. And of course we can understand that the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is not any of the Puranas, it's the Amala Purana, the crown of the Puranas. And not only that, it's also the ripe fruit on the tree of the Vedas. So if in the Bhagavatam Krishna is exalted as supreme, then we can conclude that he is actually supreme. And but one, I think it was Krishna Kshetra Maharaj, or maybe somebody else, was speaking about how when the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam starts, the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam starts with very universal principles. It's not a sectarian book, so it's not like the first verse of the Bhagavatam is Krishna is supreme and everybody else is below. That's not the first. That's not the top. The Bhagavatam starts explaining by which how you say, characteristics we can understand that some path is supreme. So, for example, it says that path that leads to pure fulfillment, that is supreme. That form of religion which is free of kaitava dharma, which is free of any form of materialistic religiosity, and when you're fulfilling your duties and only doing rituals for some material gain. So that form of religion, which is free of any of that, that is what we're trying to follow. So that is the introduction. And then it becomes clear this is leading to Krishna. So that's why the Bhagavatam is supreme. It's not at all sectarian, it's very scientific, and therefore it is necessary that we use the word demigod. So there's no confusion. For us, there's no confusion. If you grow up and if you study Srila Prabhupada's books, there's no confusion. These are the demigods and this is Krishna. The demigods are occupying the devatas, they're occupying a temporary position of power. Therefore, they are demigods. Indra is not eternal. Indra is occupying the position of the ruler of the devatas. But we can read in the Vedas and different texts how at regular intervals there's a new Indra coming. So it's like a ministerial position. Just like different ministries you have in the government, Railway Ministry, Home Ministry, External Ministry, etc. In a similar way, the position is eternal, but the person occupying that position regularly changes. Every election, maybe in between elections also. Shri Prahlad Lakshmani Singari Bhagavan Ki Jai. So in similar way, the devatas, they change position. So who doesn't change position? Is Shiva and Vishnu. So Shiva is in between. Shiva Tattva is a very unique Tattva. But Vishnu, nobody is replacing Krishna or Vishnu at some time. They're eternal in their position. So therefore, the word demigod is very good because it makes a very clear distinction. Even demigod is not a direct, literal translation of the word devata. So in some Sanskrit scholars, take that out of context and criticize Srila Prabhupada. So we should be aware so we can explain back, And it's not Srila Prabhupada, it's Madhvacharya, Ramanujacharya, so many acharyas, traditional acharyas, have exalted Vishnu, Narayan, or Krishna as the supreme, or understood or revealed, that he is supreme. Yes, so therefore all the other demigods and devatas, they have a duty. They have a duty to fulfill. Just like a minister, if he does not fulfill his duty, then it's very likely he will be removed from office. So in a very similar way, that is the position now between Prithu Maharaj. He's a Shaktavesha avatar of Vishnu himself, and Mother Earth at this point is not fulfilling her duty. So the question is why she's not fulfilling her duty. That's also very important. It's not that she's doing it out of malice or on purpose. The reason was because the previous ruler was not very pious. So Ramananda was explaining yesterday how Mother Earth reciprocates, and she was closed now because Vena was such a sinful person that she was not willing or ready to reciprocate. And Ramananda also was talking about one very interesting topic about jewels, because it is described Mother Earth gives jewels, minerals, grains. These are the main things she provides. And when you read Srila Prabhupada's books, at different points, he talks about this. So if we actually are pious, jewels will come. You might have read this, and you were thinking, what fairy tale is this? Sounds like a fairy tale. You were very pious, and suddenly jewels come. But it's true. It's actually true. And I have a very good friend whose father was a hobby miner in the Alps, and his father was saying how, if you know the areas, if you know the areas where to walk, where to find. There are caves, and in the mountains, in these caves, you can find gems, and there's always movement. The planet is always moving. We call it nowadays tectonic movements. Different tectonic plates that are moving, and because of this movement, there's always new stones coming to the surface. Actually. And the father of this Tamohar, maybe somebody knows Tamohar. Anybody knows Tamohar? You know Tamohar. Tamohar's father, he was saying that he could observe how in the last, that was maybe already 10 years ago, but he did it for like a few decades. He was doing this, as a hobby, and he found quite some valuable, stones. Just you had to walk like many days, sometimes 2 weeks. He was just walking in the Alps, but he could observe how it became less and less and less. It was more and more difficult to find jewels. And also here, in every winter, granite stones come to the surface, in our garden, and we have to remove them. So it's a natural procedure actually that stones and the minerals come to the surface, by the change of climate or also by the movement of the planet. And the Vedas describe that if the people on the surface are pious, then she's providing generously, generously. And of course, one example of that is, when the Europeans came to South America, they were surprised. Gold was not as precious as it was in the old world, so to say. So in South America, especially in the Inca Empire, everybody was carrying gold, big gold, crowns, earrings, plates, everything out of gold, and they wow, where do we land? El Dorado. But they even of course they were also not perfect Vedic people, but they had many ways. They're very, very strong in touch with nature. The Inca Empire, they worshipped the sun god. And there's a few examples, descriptions. When you worship the sun god, gold will be plentiful, is described, So the Incas, their main deity was the sun god, Inti. So they had plenty of gold, Gold was, they had easy access to it, and like that. So there is certainly a relationship between the collective karma of all people and how Mother Earth is reciprocating. That is certainly there. And there is one book written by a devotee, Amin Rishi. Well, I forgot his devotee name. What's the Amin? Huh? Atmatattva Prabhu. And he wrote a book, Mutter Erde wehrt sich. Mutter Erde. So Mother Earth is in revenge. And he's analyzing how, and he's basing it on descriptions from the Vedas and the Bhagavatam. Because we have seen an increased, imbalance in how nature is behaving. Like only, how many? 1998, so it's like around 20 years ago, we used to have snow from October until March. Full snow cover. Maybe it will become a little bit less, a little bit more, but full snow cover. So now it's much less. And in the summer, very often, we see, in the meadows, the cracks develop, it's very dry, drought. I think it was last year or 2 years ago, basically all of Germany was brown, All the meadows, everything became, and that didn't happen in a long time, actually, All the fields, all the corn also, it became like it shriveled, And when people came for Nrsimha Chaturdashi or also for Brahmotsava, actually at the end of the summer, they were surprised because this area here was, because a little bit higher up in the mountains, was still green, whereas the rest of Germany was everything dried up, drought. So drought, excessive heat, excessive cold, earthquakes, all of these are considered to be signs when Mother Earth is displeased. Similarly to in the beginning of the 10th canto, we hear about Mother Earth also in the shape of a cow taking shelter of Lord Brahma. And she's complaining that there are so many armies, so many armies on her surface, and she's asking for relief. So there we have descriptions that she doesn't like when too many armies are on the planet because it means conflict. People are killing each other, and also liars. She doesn't like liars. When people are dishonest, there's I forgot where the verse is, but it's a verse. I'm pretty sure it's in the Bhagavatam. When people are dishonest, she shakes. And that's earthquakes. It says, and if they're really dishonest, she might crack open and swallow them. It's described. So, yes, there is a direct relationship between our Mother Earth. She's our mother. She's taking care of us. And also in the very beginning of the Bhagavatam, there is Mother Earth and as Bhumi Devi as Mother Earth and Dharma as a bull, and they have this conversation. Very, very interesting. And what we can understand is that actually environmental protection is naturally built into our tradition. Actually, we understand that the planet is not just a big ball of elements we can just drill and take as much as we want, but actually Mother Earth is a person. So we understand she's a person, and if you understand she's a person, you behave accordingly. So in South America, in the Inca tradition, they call Mother Earth Pachamama. And whenever they eat, or drink, they make an offering. You don't eat or drink. So this is still tradition in Peru, in rural areas for sure at least. So when you drink, you put some, and you say Pachamama, some food, and then you eat first, and then afterwards you eat. So that's their tradition. So they're conscious, she's a mother, and the more we have this consciousness, we behave accordingly, because the you could say, destructive ignorance is to the face, how we are destroying the planet, maybe you don't believe in global warming, but you can still see how polluted everything is, you know. And the English, they have small islands. They conquered the whole world, but now they have no trees, you know. There's no forest in England anymore, you know. All the trees were cut down, you know. Everything became ships, you know. And like that, in so many parts of the planet, there's like a big erosion, you know, of species also. You know, they call it what is it called? The great species dying, something like that. There's a specific name, but you might have heard about it. And it's like a rapid decline in species, very rapid now happening. You know, rapid decline. All kinds of species just dying out. You know. Bees also a big problem, you know, bees. Like the Bavarian government is spending millions and millions trying to, promote bees, because if bees go, we have no fruits, you know. And, there's many theories, and quite substantial, many scientists, also environmentalists. If bees actually die out, we also die out, you know. It's the end, you know. Everything collapses, you know, because they are pollinating everything. The whole nature is dependent on the pollination, and if there's no pollination, plants don't reproduce, and everything just collapses. You know? So in America, they have big trucks, full of bees, and they travel around the valleys in California to pollinate all the almond plantations. You know, it's not happening naturally anymore. You know, in China, they even have, because there's so much smog, they even have people pollinating. You know, climbing on the trees and shaking every single flower. So all of this is because we are not living in harmony with nature. You know? And especially now in the fourth canto, in connection with Prithu Maharaj, and I think a little bit later also, Srila Prabhupada will talk a lot about how we should live. You know? And he says very, maybe radical things, but it should give us a thought. You know? He says, ideally we should just have a very simple dwelling. You know? You should go to the next forest, collect some wood, and that you should use for cooking and heating. So very, very simple lifestyle. And we used to live like that in Peru. We used to have a house in the valley, in the sacred valley of the Incas. And we lived with no electricity. We had just a river coming down from the small rivulet, maybe like this wide, coming from the mountains. This was our water supply. No electricity, and we had a small forest, And we had earth, so we could grow some corn, and we had a cow also, milk. It was perfect. It was nice, no problem. So we have become very urbanized. Even we live in the countryside, we are living very often an urban lifestyle. So we shop in Lidl, and everything we get is has a big chain, a big tail behind it. We can get now plums from South Africa, Even plum season usually here is only in fall, but you can get plums, You can get strawberries, from Spain or, somewhere, So this is actually artificial, and it has a consequence, It has a consequence, and it's visible. And so, we need to understand. We need to see that maybe a big, catastrophe still needs to happen for everybody to wake up. Maybe people become more and more conscious. And to some extent, this is happening. Many people are conscious about, how they live with nature, and that they should take what they really need, not more than they need. So environmental consciousness is there, but very often, people are working on just fighting against the symptoms, all kinds of different symptoms. But the ultimate, there's one purport also, Srila Prabhupada says, it's ultimately is the desire we have, If we become God conscious, then we are satisfied with ourselves. The problem why the planet is so exploited, is being exploited to that extent, is because people are not satisfied, So they're trying to exploit, and somehow become satisfied, But satisfaction is not like that. Satisfaction ultimately is something internal, No matter how many external pleasures you supply to the body and the mind, ultimately the self is only happy when it has, pure love of Godhead. Otherwise, everything else is only temporary, good enough, and then we need more. Okay, I think I'll stop here. Maybe there are some questions, comments. Yes. Yeah.
Thank you for the nice class. Yep. Hare Krishna. So I have a couple of questions. My first question is how the demigod or the Pitas survive from these offerings, because usually also when we offer something physically, it still remains. So what is going into the offering? What kind of energy? Because in this example with the sheck to our forefathers, it's something very, like something touchable, something that they can give. But what do they receive when we offer, for example, a plate with prasadam and we put it to a picture of a forefather? What exactly goes to them? Maybe.
Yeah, that's a very good question. So there's a few points there, and I cannot explain everything technically perfect, how exactly it works. But the first point is that actually the demigods are not just a fairy tale. They're actual people. So that's the first thing that should be established. They're actual persons, they're actual people, living entities, in a different dimension, different realm, with much longer lifespans, with a bigger oversight, of what's happening on our realm. And let's say it's a little bit like Facebook, So Facebook is for free, no? But is it really for free? Why are so many people earning money with Facebook? Even it's for free, It's not for free, because all your data, your pictures, everything belongs to Facebook now, And you don't want to read the whole, thing. You just say accept because you want to, go in, So that's how social media works, It seems that it's for free, but it's not for free, So it's in a similar way. It's like that. So when you give them attention, because like giving attention has an effect, And there is a difference between, like, Manju Krishna always talks about how in Hungary they train devotees very strongly on subtle contamination and gross contamination, So, for example, let's say prasadam falls on my dhoti, just like that. So it looks very dirty, but actually it's not dirty, Grossly speaking, yes, now my dhoti is stained with turmeric and oil, but prasadam is not dirty, Actually, it's pure, But if I touch it from my mouth and it falls from my mouth to my dhoti, then it's dirty, gross and subtle, like that. So there is a subtle element, when you pay attention to somebody, you pray to to the demigods, to the devatas, you think of your forefathers, and actually, in the Pinda offering, you offer actually Vishnu Mahaprasad. Vishnu Mahaprasad, very powerful. So if they are offered, Vishnu Mahaprasad, they certainly have a benefit. Mahaprasad, it's enough to look at it. You have a benefit. Like that. Yeah.
Can I ask another question, or
Yeah.
you want to? Okay.
I think nobody else does.
Then my question was, where did Shivaram Maharaj know all the details of the Govardhan Lila?
We just ordered from Banu Maharaj. Who knows Banu Maharaj?
Just
Banu Maharaj. Banu Maharaj is a Canadian Japanese descent, Prabhupada disciple of Prabhupada disciple, and he is a Kshetra sannyasi. So he spends 90 or 95% of the time always in ISKCON Chennai, in a small room, and is translating all the books of the acharyas. And we ordered 160 books, all the books of Banu Maharaj, so we'll put in the library. Yes, so the Goswamis have described everything. There's so much to be discovered. Still, and my Gurudev also he got access to the Vrindavan. What is it called? Research Institute, Vrindavan Research Institute. It's a It's like the library in Vrindavan where all the manuscripts have been preserved, in Vrindavan. And he has a disciple, his name is Vishnu Tattva, and he's in the descendants of the Goswamis from the Govindaji, from Rupa Goswami. And he's helping him translate everything. So that's why Narjuna Maharaj, he also has a lot of details he can share. So many videos, I don't know how many, 100 maybe already or more. There's so much there. Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj was famous when I forgot the name of this publication, but he started with a few different publications. Srila Prabhupada then started Back to Godhead, previously the Harmonist was a big one, and the Sajjantoshani, and a few different publications. I forgot exactly which one was actually a daily publication, So first you started with like monthly, fortmonthly, like that, and then you said, now we can publish, every day. And then some disciples were asking, but what are we going to publish every day, the news of the spiritual world. And yes, Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj said exactly that, there's so much, there's enough to publish every day, So, yes.
But how is it to be understood? Are the scriptures like maintained and given since that time, or did someone of the Goswamis receive it or?
Yeah, both. Like even Bhaktivinoda Thakur, we sing the Gaur Artik every night, and that's a vision he had. So he says, Bhaktivinoda Deke Gaurara Sampada. He had this vision, and this is describing this, and it's an eternal lila, but he saw it. So, Divya Darshan. If we are pure enough, in pure samadhi, there's descriptions. Devotees, they, if you chant properly, you will go to the spiritual world. 2 hours, you can go to the spiritual world. If you chant properly. It's not so easy, but it's possible. But like Jiva Goswami's Tattva Sandarbhas, they focus much more on evidence from all kinds of different texts. And then some other texts are much more like the actual revelations of their experience.
Thank you.
Yes.
And then I have another question. What does Devata mean? So what the Sanskrit scholars you were explaining?
Means God.
God.
God, Dev. Daiva, godly, Devata, a god.
Okay.
So like even Krishna sometimes also is addressed as Devata. If you read in the Bhagavatam, the word by word, or in the Bhagavad Gita even, Deva, what's this verse? I forgot. But the word Deva means divine.
So how can that be understood if some Hindu fractions or some Sanskrit scholars understand that all the demigods are God? Is it because they are on the same level, because they are performing very pure devotional service, or? No,
because there are different traditions in India, and Shankaracharya introduced a Panchapasana. And basically he said, 5 main gods, you could choose any, but let's focus on this 5 specially, So Vishnu, Surya, Ganesh, Lakshmi, Shiva, I forgot what's the last one. But Panchapasana, these 5 devatas, they're all same, we just worship them. And then the personal manifestations of the gods are just basically just vehicles for you to gain moksha, So you don't want bhakti, you don't want to develop a loving relationship, but if you worship the deity, the deity becomes like a stepstone to moksha, basically. And this is the Advaita Mayavadi idea, that Vishnu is more or less understood to be a manifestation of Sattva Guna, something like that. But if you study Bhagavatam, you understand the position of Vishnu is different, it's eternal, And even Srila Prabhupada quotes this very often, that Shankaracharya also admitted, Narayana Paro Vyakta. Narayana is, supreme and existing always beyond, material creation, independent.
Thank you, Prabhu.
I will.
Thank you. Just one comment because of the newspaper you were mentioning.
Yes.
There also remember the reason was given, or Prabhupada says, because in the material world, daily newspapers are coming.
Mhm.
So in the material world, it's just 1/4 of the whole creation. And the spiritual world is 3/4. So you actually, when you speak about spiritual topics, you can bring a newspaper every minute, and all the time. So that's.
We just need to get access. We need a transcendental reporter. You know? Hare Krishna.
Sometimes Prabhupada is mentioning, if you are practicing devotional service, chant Hare Krishna, then you are free from your duties, forefathers and this and that.
Yes.
So how can we understand that? Because I see practically we have our duties to our parents, for example, when they are sick and old, we cannot neglect because I'm chanting Hare Krishna like that. And even if some bhakta is coming and starting to chant somehow, and he's free from all his duties like that. So where starts it to really, you know what I mean? Yeah? What's the question is? And also the devotees on this planet Earth, they're chanting, and so they try to please Mother Earth. Also with that, it's automatically, But it seems like that the weight of the sinful people is more than of the devotees because it's going down. How to see this?
Yeah. So the first one is I'm very bad with verses. I forgot the word, but the verse in the Bhagavatam, I think it's in the second canto. It says that if you're fully surrendered to Krishna, you have no duties, to the forefathers, to society, to anybody, and we have examples of that. The Goswamis, some of them were married, and they just renounced everything, So might seem a little bit, not so socially speaking, not so good, but you cannot imitate it if you're not fully surrendered. Also, Narottam Das Thakur, his parents wanted him to, become the successor, and Narottam Das Thakur was not interested at all. He was on a different level. But as long as we are not fully surrendered or pure devotees, we have a duty. You could say more or less. I've heard devotees explaining that to the degree that you are, surrendered, to that degree you also have less duties. And for example, and of course the question is, to what level duties, because maybe your parents want you to, continue the business, and it might be your duty because, since so many generations, always the son took over the business of the father, So actually it's your duty. And you might not be a pure devotee yet, but you have now surrendered to Krishna. You want to remain a brahmachari, So you might have the duty to, be, respectful to your parents, to regularly call, but you don't have the duty to, actually take on the business, because you already have you're following a dharma, So we have to follow dharma, some form of dharma, and if you're following paradharma, it's a spiritual duty, then to that degree, all the duties decrease. So, like that. But yeah, we certainly did discourage, because in the beginning of the movement, people were very idealistic, and they were sure they're basically already pure devotees, And in many ways they were. Like in the Juna Maharaj, there was one lady in the Polish tour some years ago. I think her name was Kinkari Mataji, and Juna Maharaj said she's a pure devotee. And the reason was because she was like at any moment on time she was always doing seva. Like there was no moment where you could see her like just spacing out, or she was mental, or too much, or confused. She was non-stop, always organizing at Harinam, cleaning up in the kitchen, and like she was like the heartbeat of the tour in many ways. So as long as we are fully engaged, we might be in a pure position. The question is how long you can keep up this position. And the Bhagavad Gita gives a very clear system. You should try. you should try to fully surrender. Just think of Krishna, nothing else. You know? And if you can't do that, then you can, go to a step back and you follow the system of Bhakti Yoga. You know? And then you have, morning program and lecture and japa time and, kitchen seva and, different forms of Bhakti Yoga. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Archanam. And then if you can't do that, you can work for Krishna, So maybe you're not able to always be, doing puja. So you work. We can go in the garden. We can, build buildings for Krishna. We can, and if you can't do that, you can work, whatever you work, you earn money, and you can give the fruits of your money, or part of the fruits of your money to Krishna. So there's always a position you can fall back. But we always try to, we try for the highest, and then we see, where we fall back. And then from that position, again, we can try to raise ourselves. And in connection to the planet also, yes, I think, I forgot the exact point of the second question, but the thought I had in my mind was that it's not that because we are devotees we have no duty to the environment, Actually, it's important preaching nowadays, and there's a whole division and committee of the dedicated group of devotees from the GBC who are encouraging temples to be environmentally conscious and sustainable, to not, for example, for festivals buy tons of plastic, one way, cups and plates and spoons, but maybe spend a little bit more money and buy paper, which is biodegradable, something like that. Or since many years we were planning to get a leaf plate delivery from India, but the problem is now somehow Indians have started melting plastic between the leaves so it doesn't leak. I was like, no. So we should be conscious of how we deal with nature.
My question was more in direction of there are no more any yakyas, and we are doing yakya with Harinam. So, but it seems that like the sinful people which are not doing yakyas have more weight on the earth, like our yakyas.
Yes.
What we are doing.
I'm not sure if it's directly in a purport from Srila Prabhupada, but there is this number we have heard many times. Maybe somebody knows that 1%. If 1% of the people are pious, devotees, then the scale tilts already to the positive. So 1% we need. So we need another 700,000 devotees in Germany. Around, 1%. So 1% of the population, it's not much actually, but it's a lot if you think about it, 800,000 devotees in Germany, that would be nice, So only 1% we need. But you can imagine, if there was 1% devotees, that's 800,000 devotees.
800,000 pure devotees.
Well, at least dedicated, At least dedicated, as far as I understand, Pure would be even better, of course, but I think what I understand is if they're at least dharmic, they may not be pure, but they're following dharma, they're endeavoring, chanting every day, so 800,000 devotees is a lot, Already in the Prabhupada disciples, the Manida always talks about how in the 70s they were actually, I think, 120 devotees, 120 Prabhupada disciples were there in Germany, around, and people thought there are thousands of them, but because they're always traveling, and they're always traveling, distributing books, so for the public perception, it's like they're everywhere. There are thousands of them, only 120. So, of course, 120, 100% dedicated, I don't know how many full-time Sankirtan devotees we have now. Less than 120 for sure, But if we had again 120 or more, and then a congregation attached to that, yes. It is possible, we're still in the beginning. The mission is not over yet. Yes. Grantaraj Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai, Śrīla Prabhupada ki jai.
अपने आप का ढूंढते